Hello, and a warm welcome to our show, Love Athletics. In this program, we bring you the latest highlights from our sport with expert input from different continental areas. And we're delighted to have as our guest today, U.S. journalist Anderson Emerole. Hi, Anderson. Lovely to see you, and a big thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Always great to see you, Anna. And yeah, excited to talk some, recent track and field news this week.
Absolutely. So the main focus of our program today is the inaugural Grand Slam meet held between 4 and 6 April in Kingston. So let's go straight to the point with the GST review, and then we'll also look at some other notable results before and after that weekend. So Anderson, first of all, what are your overall thoughts on the inaugural GST meet?
Well, I really did love Grand Slam track, and I had the chance to be down in Kingston to cover it, and it was really exciting. There was a lot of hype, there was a lot of anticipation, about what this would actually look like because it's something very brand new to the sport. But I thought it was, for the most part, a general success in terms of its first implementation, as a meet, where the crowd in Jamaica, in Kingston, they actually really did love it, even though the crowd wasn't fully packed in terms of the stadium, but the energy was there. The athletes did tend to love it. The organization, from the meet standpoint, was really smooth. So overall, I think it was a success, and I did love the first edition of Grand Slam track.
Well, that's cool because, as you said, there was a lot of anticipation. So I'm glad that you really enjoyed it. And yes, the athletes definitely did seem to enjoy it. So what athletes impressed you the most in Kingston?
Yeah, so there was a few who definitely impressed me, but three that came to mind were Kenny Bednarek. So Kenny Bednarek, he's the Olympic silver medalist at the past two Olympics in the 200. He actually won both the 100 and 200, so the overall Grand Slam champion for the short sprints. He, had impressive performances against a very, very high quality field, specifically in that 100 meters. He was able to take that very high quality field down and just continues, that consistency that he's been showing for his entire career, dating back to 2019 when he first became a professional. So Kenny Bednarek, he was the first one. Then on top of that, also in the short sprints, but on the women's side, Melissa Jefferson was the other one who was really impressive to me. Also, she won the 100 and the 200. We saw her get a bronze medal last year at the Olympics in the 100-meter dash, but she hadn't run a 200, I think, since in about a couple years, since 2022, I think it was. And so for her to be able to get the win in the 100 and then come back in the 200 and run down, someone like Jenna Prandini was in that field, and she's a very strong 200 runner. So Melissa Jefferson, also very impressive, getting both wins there in the short sprints. And then finally, kind of, I was surprised, I guess, but like Dalilah Muhammad was the other athlete who I really found to be very, very impressive. Now, she didn't win her events in the long hurdles, either the 400 hurdles or the 400, but we know Dalilah Muhammad has been one of the more dominant athletes in the hurdles, prior to Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone, coming onto the scene. Dalilah Muhammad, world champion, former Olympic champion. But here in Grand Slam track, she announced that 2025 will be her final year. She's going to be retiring. But here she finished second place in the 400 hurdles and I think third place in the 400. And she came overall second place in the standings to Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone, proving that even though, she's coming towards her retirement, she still is a very, very talented athlete. So yeah, those are the three athletes who really, really impressed me.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Dalilah is impressive because she announces her retirement and then she's doing really well. Of course, she has a phenomenon like Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone, so it's tough to win against Sydney these days, but she's really been doing very well. So I guess in terms of the athletes that impressed you the most, we see the difference. You have a background as a sprinter, and I like the longer distances. Because for me, impressive results came mainly among the women. Obviously, Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone and Dalilah Muhammad on the 400 hurdles and on the long hurdles, but especially the women's long sprints. I thought that was really mega. Because Grand Slam track, we're saying that they, only the fastest athletes, and in the 200, 400. They had 200-meter Olympic champion Gabby Thomas against 400-meter Olympic champion Marilady Paulino, plus 2024 Olympic silver medalist Salwa Naser. So that was really something. Thomas, as expected, won the 200, but Paulino held on very well in second, and she looked favorite to win her specialist event. But that was without counting on Salwa Naser, the 2019 world champion. So she ran a fantastic 48.67, her second sub-49 time in less than a week, winning the longer distance. Gabby was absolutely fantastic, running 49.14 PB. That's a very respectable time on the 400 meters. And Marilady unexpectedly placed third, losing her first 400-meter race since 2023, paving the win for Gabby's overall win. So those ladies really fought it out. And that was, what GST is all about head-to-heads. But it was also very good time. So I thought that was brilliant. Now, among the men, obviously, fastest mark was Alison Dos Santos. Very good first race in the hurdles, 47.61, and a good 44.34 by Chris Bailey over the 400 flat, confirming his very good indoor form.
Yeah, Chris, I really do love the fact that specifically Chris Bailey, like you said, confirming his indoor form, coming off that World Indoor Gold to get a really strong and a very fast early season 400 time. We don't see, low 44 seconds early this season in general. So Chris Bailey really did, this was a great performance for him against a very high quality field.
Yeah, absolutely. But the race that I liked the most was the 1500. It's very often my favorite event, so that's not a surprise. But especially I loved the fact that 800-meter Olympic champion Emmanuel Wanyonyi took the win in 3:35.18, a huge improvement on his PB. Just look at the smile on Emmanuel's face. I love it. And what really impressed me is, GST was saying only the fastest athletes. And one event where it rang totally true was the short distance, where you had, apart from Jakob Ingebrigtsen, all the top athletes were there. Olympic champion Cole Hawker, world champion Josh Kerr, Olympic medalist Yared Nuguse. And here comes a non-specialist and beats them all on their own territory. And I must say, I especially relished that, given the pre-race declarations. Now, Anderson, that Cole Hawker is an athlete I really like. We spoke about him, when he stayed in Europe for several Diamond League meetings. I really like him. But before Kingston, here he is saying, I've said it before and I'll say it again, I think I'm the best racer in the world. And then Josh Kerr refers to himself as the most dominant middle distance runner in the world right now. And what happens? Kerr finishes fifth over 1500 and last over the 800 and a dismal seventh overall. Hawker at least third in his specialist event and fifth in the 800, fourth overall. That's okay. But to hear these guys hyping themselves and then getting beaten in their event, I thought that was brilliant. And the fact is, all these guys had skipped the World Indoor supposedly to prepare for GST. So, Anderson, what did you think of the 1500?
Yeah, I agree. I think this race, definitely captured what Grand Slam track has said, the best of the best and the fastest. They had, not only in the 15 did they have the entire podium from the Paris Olympics, but then you also did have, Wanyonyi, the Olympic champion in the 800. They had Marco Arop, the Olympic, silver medalist. So they had the fastest guys. And to see Wanyonyi, who, relatively unknown in terms of his 1500-meter ability, we all know he's very talented, but to see him take down that entire field, I think that speaks volumes, for his capabilities, how he's able to really come up as a very strong racer against these other guys. That was an amazing, amazing performance. And then, like you said, the 1,500 guys between, Hawker and Kerr, saying before the race that they are the best racers, but then to actually see it, come onto the track and maybe not perform to the expectations. I think it'll be interesting to see how they move over into the future with the next couple Grand Slam track meets. And I think that, many of them did skip the World Indoor Championships in favor of Grand Slam track. And I think that, maybe that will resonate in, I don't know if they'll resonate in future years where we'll see more athletes, specifically in the 15, will skip World Indoors, but potentially next year, we'll have World Indoors in Poland next year. Maybe they'll skip that again to focus on Grand Slam track, or maybe some athletes will choose to run World Indoors to get prepared for Grand Slam. So it'll be interesting to see the strategy that athletes take in the future.
Thank you. Now, the GST mantra of only the fastest certainly did not represent the long distance events. And I'm particularly disappointed with Grant Fisher, because just a couple of weeks ago on this program, I was raving about US distant athletes, what a wonderful season they had had. Fisher himself had set 2 world records over 3,000 and 5,000. And in Kingston, Fisher completed the 5,000 in 14 minutes, 39.14, almost 2 minutes slower than his world indoor record, and a mark that has a very, very lowly result score of 873 points. That's almost as bad as I was when I was running when I was 17. And it's only performance number 1,730 of the year. In the 3,000, he was slightly better, running in 8:03.85. That's performance 834. He came third, over 12 seconds behind winner Hagos Gebrehiwot. But what really got me was his minimum effort tactics. Jogging around the track for 11 and a half laps in the 5,000, only sprinting in the last lap. And in the 3,000, he goes out and calculates, I don't need to beat the 2 guys who've gone out at the front, Gebrehiwot and Telahun Haile Begele. I just need to beat the other guys. And sorry, but I didn't particularly appreciate that. Some people say that it was only to be expected because distance runners were racing twice over 3 days in warm conditions. But remember Sifan Hassan? At the Olympic Games, she ran a marathon, 37 hours, after competing in the 10,000. And she took bronze. And she set the Olympic record on a really tough course. So sorry, but having to double twice in 3 days for me is no excuse. So there were some really tough comments. First of all, how does this head-to-head competition thing reconcile with Fisher's minimum effort calculations? And commentators on the websites and social media, they were saying, a high school runner could easily have lapped the athletes. And some were suggesting, Faith Kipyegon would at least have added some spice to the race. So what do you think, Anderson? Are those times and tactics really worth 100,000 USD?
Yeah, I'm a little mixed because I agree that these were not great times or performances when we look at it on the clock. I mean, I think there of course is an aspect where, hypothetically, if a high school athlete jumped in the race, they would have to be able to match up. I think these professionals wouldn't let them, get ahead of them and different things like that, even if the time was slow. But I think maybe it depends on the goal. So this race actually made me think about the 2016 Olympic Games where we saw the men's 1,500 meters. Matthew Centrowitz, he won that gold medal running, I think, 3:50, a time that, Faith Kipyegon right now would be able to run. But they used, tactics for the sole focus of getting that gold medal. maybe in Grand Slam track now, we'll see athletes focus less on the time and more on those specific tactics to be able to win, the $100,000, to be able to win the overall Grand Slam champion, and again, it'll be interesting. This is a very, very extreme example where we're seeing a significantly slower time. And in the 3000, Grant Fisher identified that he didn't need to win the race. So it takes away from, us wanting to see athletes push as hard as they can. But I think it's a balance. It'll be interesting to see how, going into the next Grand Slam track meet in Miami, how athletes will use those tactics in the long distance, both on the men's and even on the women's side as well.
One of my issues is that if Grand Slam track is supposed to help bring new fans to the sport, I don't think anybody is going to be thrilled by watching races like those long distance races and say, yeah, athletics is a cool sport. It's totally counterproductive.
Yeah, it is interesting because, they'll be looking at it like it's not, this isn't the excitement that we're looking for. These aren't the fast head-to-head races that we're looking for. We, in these, especially the distance races, if we're just seeing everyone go very slow, but then the last, lap is when everyone just turns on their kick, that's not the excitement that we might be looking for. So that's why I wonder if this will kind of shift how people think about it going into the next couple races, how the athletes think about, okay, I want to make sure I go out there and run extremely fast, and make it a competitive race. So,
yeah. And in general, what do you think about the doubling up format of GST?
So I like the doubling up format in certain circumstances. I like, for the 100, the 200, even the 815, like we were just talking about. I love to see when someone like Wanyonyi is able to beat out a 1500 meter field and then, double back in 800, where, Marco got the win in the 800 there. Or, when we see Kenny Bednarek, get the win in the 100 and the 200, or, even Gabby Thomas getting the win in the 200, then getting flipped, Sawi Naser gets the win in the 400. So those are super exciting. And even in like the short hurdles where we see the, 110 hurdles or the 100 meter hurdles, and we see, them run the 100 meter dash. But it'll be interesting to see if we're able to keep the level of excitement because, the hurdlers, the short hurdles, they're not going to be running fast times in the open, in the flat 100 meter dash. So will we still be able to keep that level of excitement as long as it's competitive? I guess I'm split, but overall, I do like the format, the doubling format for the most part.
Yeah, that's one of the things I liked about Grand Slam track. It was a format which made sense. And at the same time, it was something totally new. So I really liked that. But as again, I'm totally unimpressed with in particular with Grant Fisher. I mean, of course, the other guys could have done something to speed it up or whatever, but sorry. Now, talking about doubling up, it's really interesting that Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone has said that in the last two GST meets, she's going to change events. So short hurdles in Philadelphia on 30 May to 1st June, and long sprints on the final leg in Los Angeles from 27 to 29 June. Now, Anderson, Sydney is probably the only athlete who can realistically look at doing well in 3 different race groups.
Yeah, I mean, Sydney is a special talent, a once-in-a-generation talent. And in this format, this is where we can see someone like Sydney thrive. And I actually think this is a positive because before, when Grand Slam track was announced and Sydney was announced as a racer, everyone was saying she's just going to win everything. But now that she's open to moving into different events, if we see her in the 100 hurdles and the 100 in Philadelphia, she's going to have, some really strong competition because we know that, she's not the best 100 meter hurdler compared to, all the other women there. Same thing in the long sprint group, where in the 400 and the 200, we just saw Sawi Naser, run, 48 seconds, something that Sydney has done before, but not as fast as Naser. That's a competition that I'm really excited to see, putting Sydney versus Salwa versus Gabby versus Marliti. That's like a competition that us as fans want to see. So it makes it great we get to see Sydney against all this other competition in these different event groups. And it's not a foregone conclusion that she's going to win everything. So I really do actually like it.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's great. And I think, as you say, that it really will help bring a lot of excitement, because in her event, obviously, she's way ahead of everybody else. But the fact that she's prepared to, step down to other events, I think that's really great. It shows guts as well. I like the lady. So, Anderson, I think we also need to talk about spectators. The first day, as you said, there were not that many. It got better over the weekend when GST offered free tickets. And apparently, we're in Jamaica. The atmosphere was still good, even if the stadium was not full. So the fact is, though, ticket sales will definitely have to improve dramatically to make Grand Slam track sustainable over the years.
Yeah, it will. I think it's like twofold where, like we said, that especially that first day, that Friday, there was, not many people in the stands. And even with, the energy of the Jamaican crowd, Jamaicans, they love track and field, so it's always going to be there, but there weren't as many fans in the stands. They, hopefully, and I think they very well will, pick up in terms of their ticket sales, over the next couple slams. I mean, there's also, I guess, the context I think about is, the Kingston stadium. I think it's a 30,000 seat stadium, and that's like the standard for world championships, where that's like the minimum standard for to host a world championship. So I don't know if I expected the entire thing to be filled, but it will be interesting to see if Miami, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, if those stadiums will, garner a bigger crowd, especially after having already seen the first meet, and then hopefully there's more interest that continues to generate. So, yeah.
From what I was reading, Miami is only 5,000 seats, so that should be fine. But Philadelphia is huge.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see.
We'll see. So to end on a positive note, as we said, athletes really seem to enjoy the event. Here, for example, is what Susan Ejore, who was 4th over 800 and 2nd in the 1500 for a cumulative 3rd place, posted on Instagram. My first ever Grand Slam track was an absolute blast. Plenty of smiles, great competition, and an overall fantastic experience. Friends equal unforgettable memories. I am honored and grateful to be part of the GST inauguration. Thank you so much for this opportunity. So she obviously enjoyed it. You can see her with Nikki Hills, who I think had a great weekend in Kingston. And of course, French high hurdler Sasha Zoya was totally delighted, 2nd in the hurdles, and then winner in the 100 meters. And after that, he was dancing around the track. And apparently he also jumped into Michael Johnson's trackside box to thank him personally. So he was obviously having a blast.
That was exciting. That was very exciting.
So thank you, Anderson. Let's go back now to the other competitions over the fortnight, starting with stadium events in chronological order. So 29 March, first World Continental Tour Gold meeting, Maury Plant meet in Melbourne. There were some good performances, but for me, the most interesting race were the men's 200 meters, where another athlete, fresh from the world indoors, silver medalist Lachlan Kennedy, continued to show good form, taking the win in 20.26 over 17-year-old Gout in 20.30. Now, Gout, who was running his first senior meet, boasts the 2025 world lead with a regular 20.05 as well as a windy 19.98. So that was interesting, and we'll see more from both sprinters. On the same day, but on a much longer distance, in California, San Juan Capistrano, the 10. Founded in 2021, this competition has always seen great performances every year, and 2025 was no exception. As athletes, because over the 10, they don't have a lot of competition opportunities. So that's why this race was set up in the first place. And athletes were chasing qualifying standards. and World Athletics ranking points for the World Championships in Tokyo. So the race was won by Kenya's Ishmael Rokito Kipkirui, who was the 2023 World Cross Under 20 champion in 26:50:21 on his debut at the distance over Eritrea's Habtom Samuel, 26:51:06 PB, and South Africa's Adrian Wildschut, 26:51:27. Top 5 athletes there, also including Ethiopia's Telahun Haile Bekele and the USA's Graham Blanks, achieved the Tokyo qualifying standard. And another noteworthy mark there was India's Gulveer Singh, who was 6th in 27:00:22, just missing the Tokyo standard. But he confirmed his growth this year, setting the 3rd national record and his 2nd world-class mark after an excellent 12:59:77 indoors over the 5,000 in Boston in February. So that was good. Women's race was not as fast. The USA's Elise Cranny won in 30:36:56 world lead, but missed the Tokyo standard of 30 minutes 20. And a final note, I find it is interesting that as new forms of athletics meets are being tested, in addition to prize money, athletes competing at the 10 are paid by sharing revenues and tips from the pay-per-view broadcast of that event. So that was cool. So Anderson, what are your thoughts about the 10 in general and this year's edition?
Yeah, I thought that it was really interesting. I think just on the last point, it is really cool where you see athletes, getting, their prize money, but then also getting that shared revenue. Something that, they've, I think Sound Running puts on the 10 like they've been doing a few times. But also, we saw athletes like Elise Cranny, though she competed in the 10, a week later, she was down in Jamaica competing in Grand Slam track, right? So it's very interesting to see things like that. And I think overall, it's really cool to have a meet focused on, the 10,000, getting athletes to get that, hopefully get the qualifying standard if they can at this meet so that they can get it early enough and not have to worry about it through the season as they compete in other events. I think that's overall a really, really great, addition to the sport for sure.
Thank you. So let's look at other events. We've spoken a lot about track, and now it's time to focus on field events and the throws in particular. At the Oklahoma Throws Series in Ramona, a traditional mecca for throwers, Australia's Matthew Denny threw an excellent 72:07 in the discus on 6 April, adding over 2 meters to his previous PB. The mark is not only an Oceania record, but also the 5th best of all time. And the Olympic bronze medalist is now so fired up that he's talking about attacking Mikolas Alekna's world record of 74:35. So Anderson, I'd like to ask, what makes Ramona a thrower's paradise?
Well, they catch some great wind down in Ramona in Oklahoma there, where it's really like the perfect conditions, for them to be able to throw there. Again, conditions in terms of like, yes, the wind and the weather and kind of like all those conditions, but then also it's like really hyped up as a meet for the top throwers to be able to come to. They have the throw series, and I think they'll have another meet coming up very soon as well, where it's made so that athletes know, let's come here and try and get some really, really, far marks. So I love to see it. It's set up for the discus. Let's see if Alekna's world record is able to go down soon. I think this does indicate that it could go down, building off the momentum. But Alekna is also very young as well, so maybe he might be able to, go farther. So yeah, but I think amazing kind of like conditions specifically down in Oklahoma there.
Yeah, definitely. Now, another excellent performance far away from Oklahoma came from China's javelin thrower Yan Zhiyi. The world under 20 champion is still only 16, but she throws with a heavier implement, not the 500-gram javelin used by the under 18s. So on 26 March in Chengdu, She improved her own world under 20 record, bringing it to 64 meters 83. And she now owns the 4 best under 20 marks of all time, and all of them are longer than 64 meters. And by the way, her 68.43 is currently the second best senior mark of the year. So that concludes our brief overview of stadium events. Let's move now to road races. So ahead of the World Marathon Majors in Boston and London this month, there were some good results over shorter races. The best of them came in the Berlin Half Marathon on 6 April, especially among the women. Despite the cold and wind, Ethiopia's Foyten Tesfaye, an Olympic finalist in the 10,000 meters last year, clocked an excellent 1:03.35, the 5th best performance of all time. Compatriots of Taizerao and Alemandis Eyahu in 1:07.02 and 1:07.12 were far behind in second and third. Among the men, Gemechu Dida, also from Ethiopia, who was silver medalist over 10,000 last year at both the All Africa Games and the African Championships, ran a good race to win in 58.43, well ahead of Kenya's Richard Etir, 59.30, and Germany's Amanal Petros, 59.31. A day earlier, in the Prague Half Marathon, victory among the women went to Kenya's Lilian Kazait Ringeruk in 1:05.27. The men's race saw a close battle between favorite Isaiah Kipkoech Lasoy of Kenya and Burundi's Rodrigue Kwizera, and the crown went to Kwizera in 58.54 to 58.56, which is interesting because the Burundian is mainly known as a cross-country specialist. And to close our road races section, a world best was set over the 10 miles on 6 April by the USA's Taylor Rowe in Washington, in a race which was also the US Championship at the distance. Now, to be honest, I hesitated to prepare a screen as the 10 miles is not often contested, and also the distance is not an official world best distance. But the mark is still pretty good, and Rowe did break a barrier because her performance of 49.53 breaks the 50 minutes barrier. The previous best was 50.32 by Kenya's Evelyn Chirchir in 2019. So congratulations to Taylor Rowe. Anderson, anything you would like to add about road races?
No, nothing major to add. The only thing that comes to mind, it'll be interesting to see, we'll have the World Athletics Road Running Championships later this year. I know they were moved from San Diego, and they'll potentially be a location determined, and announced soon. So it'll be interesting to see how athletes do approach preparation for the Road Running Championships, as well as the World Athletics Championships in Tokyo, throughout all of 2025.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So let's now take a final look at the World Cross Country season, because at the end of March, the winners of the World Cross Tour 2024-25 were announced. Nadia Battocletti and Rodrigue Kwizera topped the standings, both with maximum points. Now, the WCCT rankings are based on each athlete's top 3 performances in the series, which runs from September to March. Among the men, Burundi's Spain-based Kwizera took his 3rd consecutive title, winning a total of 5 races, 4 of them in 2024, Amorebieta, Atapuerca, Soria, and Alcobendas, as well as Albufeira last February. So he won with 3,720 points ahead of Kenya's Matthew Kipkoech Kipruto and Thierry Dikumwenayo. Among the women, The winner was Nadia Battocletti, also 3,720 points, ahead of Francine Nyomukunzi of Burundi and Kenya's Sheila Jebet. Now, Battocletti had won Alcobendas and the European Cross in 2024 and the Campaccio this year. Now, the Italian is the Olympic silver medalist at 10,000 meters, the double European champion over 5 and 10, and she had taken double Euro cross titles in the under 20 and under 23 categories, and in December added her first senior gold. Now, over this weekend, she is competing in the 10K in the inaugural European Road Running Championships. And I'm really curious to see how well she can perform on a third surface. So, Anderson, any thoughts on the cross tour, Quisera or Battocletti?
No, amazing to see them kind of like really putting down great performances, throughout over the cross tour over the past couple months, and to be, to come out on top like this. Again, similar to what I was thinking in the road running, it'll be interesting to see, when we go into the 2025-2026 cross tour and leading into the 2026, World Cross Championships, which will be going down in January 2026, actually in the United States, how athletes kind of do prepare and get ready for that, especially coming off this season of the cross tour.
Yeah, exactly. With a different date, that's going to shake things up a little bit, because before it was at the end of March. So athletes basically did the tour. Maybe then they had one or event left, but now it's in the middle. The European Cross Championship is always at the beginning of December. So it's all much more in a tighter time frame. So that will be interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. So we'll see.
So, Anderson, before we look at top marks of the fortnight, I'd like to take one last look back at the recently concluded indoor season and ask, what were your favorite indoor athletics moments this year?
Yeah, so there was a lot. This was a really amazing indoor season. We saw the World Indoor Championships go down, in Nanjing, China. One of my favorite moments was Grant Holloway in the 60-meter hurdles, where he won his third consecutive gold medal in the 60-meter hurdles, something that no other athlete has done, at least consecutively in the event. He already has the world record in the 60 hurdles. He already, of course, is a recent Olympic champion, 3-time gold medalist outdoors in the 110-meter hurdles. So I think Grant Holloway kind of has solidified himself as, if not already, definitely like very close to being the greatest hurdler of all time. I mean, I feel like I could call him that. Definitely the greatest 60-meter hurdler of all time. So his performance there, very comfortable win in the 60 hurdles. That was definitely one of my top performances.
And the guy is unbeaten for 10 years over the 60 hurdles. That's crazy.
It's insane. That's like something, we're talking about Edwin Moses or, in that kind of realm. So it's, insane, amazing by Grant Holloway to get another win. So the other one is the two Zimbabwe athletes, who competed in the NCAA. That's Makarawu as well as Charamba in the 200. They went 1-2 at the NCAA championships, earlier this year in Virginia, and they compete for different schools, but for the year, Makarawu, he had gotten the win at NCAA's. Charamba was second. Earlier in the year at the SEC Indoor Championships, Charamba, he had gotten the win over Makarawu. But eventually at the end of the year, they both ended with the fastest time in the world of 20.13 seconds, which is one of the fastest times in the history of the 200. And the reason I really like this is because both of these guys, they had actually made it to the Olympic final last year in the 200, and they represent Zimbabwe, which, generally doesn't have much representation when talking about the biggest stages and having some really competitive guys. So seeing both these guys, I'm excited to see how they transition outdoors, going to, of course, NCAAs, but then also the World Championships later on in September. So yeah, they're very, very big.
Exactly. And both Makarawu and Charamba, they'd had a fantastic indoor season. And, battling each other. And that NCAA final, it was just amazing. So, yeah, I'm also really looking forward to see them in the summer season.
Yeah. Definitely.
And Anderson, any new faces who impressed you indoors that you're really looking forward to see compete outdoors?
Yeah, so I think the one big name from indoors was Isabella Whitaker in the 400. She competes for the University of Arkansas. She was the NCAA champion in the 400, running a time of 49.24 seconds, which is the second fastest time ever indoors in the 400, only behind Femke Bol's amazing world record, which she set last year at the World Indoor Championships. So to see Isabella Whitaker, put down a performance like this, running from the start to finish by herself, this was something that's really impressed me. And it really does intrigue me to see what she's going to be able to do outdoors, because we've seen so many women in the 400 run 48 seconds, over the past year. Now she is on the cusp of doing that. Will she be able to? And could she become, one of the great 400 meter runners, whether it's this year, next year, or just like into the future? So Isabella Whitaker, crazy 400 meter performance indoors for me.
Absolutely. And what's interesting is that India Maybury had actually been faster before the NCAA championship. So, but then Whitaker just went really out with this fantastic time. So, wow.
Yeah,
She's definitely, I agree, one that we need to check for the summer season.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Anderson. So let's go back now to the global overview of our sport and check all the best results since the last show, starting with the men's events. And we'll continue adding in brackets performances which are regular, which are listed on the respected website Tilastopaya, but do not appear yet on World Athletics. And we're slightly lowering our cutoff to 1,225 points this week. So here we go. The first mark on the 100 is an irregular mark, a windy 9.87 by Ghana's Abdul Rashid Saminu in Gainesville over the past weekend. But it's a really good performance. So I included it, obviously, with a caution that it's irregular. Then Chris Bailey, as we said, in Kingston, 44.34 is a very good start, 1,226 points. Over the 1,500, way far from Kingston in Cape Town on the same day, Seshipo Masalela ran in 3:30.71. Then the famous 10,000 in San Juan Capistrano, really good race with marks worth from 1,242 points for the winner to 1,230 for Graham Blanks, and Gulveer Singh 1,226. So really good performances there. Back to Kingston, 400 hurdles. Alison Dos Santos, 47.61. That was the best performance among the men in Kingston. Then we have the area record in the discus by Matthew Denny. That's the best performance of the fortnight, a huge 1,283 points. So congratulations. And a few days earlier in Austin, Ralford Mullings of Jamaica had thrown 69.13. Oh, sorry, I missed out Mikola Salekna in Berkeley, 70 meters 09. So really good performances in the discus. In the half marathon, we mentioned Gemechu Dida in Berlin. His mark is worth 1,238. It's the third best of the season. And a little further behind, the Prague marks by Rodrigue Quizera and Isaiah Kipkoech Lasoy, worth around 1,230. Top men's performance of 2025 remains the humongous world record of 6 meters 27 by Mondo Duplantis in the pole vault, 1,342 points. Among the women, the very good 400 meter in Kingston. We had Salwa Aid Naser, her 48.67 is worth 1,260 points. She had already run 48:94 in Bayaguana, Dominican Republic, a week earlier. Gabby Thomas, her 49.14 is worth an excellent 1,240 points. And Marilady Paulino with 49.35. Over the hurdles, Sydney McLaughlin, her 52.76. It's interesting. It's not the best performance in terms of score, ranking score in Kingston. That was Salwa Naser. Sydney's mark is worth 1,244. Then we have the half marathon, Berlin. Foyten Tesfaye's mark is the best women's performance of the fortnight, worth 1,265 points. Lilian Kazait Rengeruk, 105.27. That's 1,225 points. In the 35 kilometers race walk, there's a mark which is number one on the World Athletics list, but Tila Stopaya has two other marks which were faster by by Russian athletes. In any case, Ma Li, 2 hours 49 of the 35 kilometers, moves to number 9 in the all-time list without counting the Russians. And finally, in the 4x100 meters in Austin, Texas, USA Red, 41.74 with a very strong team: Tamari Davis, Gabby Thomas, Jenna Prandini, and Anavia Battle. So great performance there. Top women's performance of the year remains Medina Asa. Her 10K mark of 29.25 in Spain in February is worth 1,280 points. Let's look now at under 20s and under 18s, because there were some great performances there too over the past fortnight. So starting with the under 20s, this mark is a little bit older. It's from 14 March, but it wasn't yet on the World Athletics list. In Virginia Beach at the NCAA's, 13 minutes 11:34 for Mwange Musau of Kenya. Over the 110 hurdles, one mark over the adult height, Yander Herrera of Cuba on 6 March in Havana. He clocked 13.44, while Daniel Clark over the under 20 height of 99 centimeters. Now, he had already clocked 13.06 earlier this year at the beginning of March. And at the boys and girls championships, he clocked 13.08 in the heats, 13 in a different heat, 13.11 for Chicane Gordon, and across continents in Cape Town, South Africa's Naim Jack, 13.16. Among the women, two interesting marks. On the 400 meters, Dana Wilson, also in Gainesville. There were some really good marks, especially among the under 20s and under 18s there. 22.45 for Dana Wilson. Over 400 hurdles, excellent mark by Virgin Islands Michelle Smith, 54.56. That moves her to number 4 in the under 20 all-time list. Then some great marks in the throws. Chinese athletes, Jiale Zhang, 71 meters 53 in the hammer. That makes her would be better than number 5 in the under 20 all-time list, but she already has the number 3 mark from last year. That was on 2 April, and a few days earlier, she had thrown 69.19. Then an interesting mark from Makinas, 68 meters 54 moves to number 15 in the under 20 all-time list. Now, at the end of last year in December, she had set the world under 18 best in the hammer, and she had moved to Canada to train and to study. In the javelin, we've already mentioned Yan Zhiyi and her 64 meters 83 under 20 world record, and her second great mark of 64.05. In the pentathlon, interesting, these marks are from February and March, but we hadn't seen them before on the World Athletics list. Sofia Yakushina of Russia, studying in the US, she totaled 4,556 points in the indoor pentathlon on 27 February in College Station. That's the best under 20 mark of the year, and also the number 3 on the all-time lists. And she also had a very good mark at the NCAA's, 4,412 points. So very good results there. Let's look now at the under 18s. 400 meters. Now, Tila Stopaya has 45.27 for Kendrick Jones Jr. at College Station on 8 March. World Athletics doesn't have it. That would be equal number 9 on the under 18 all-time list. And on 4 April in Gainesville, Quincy Wilson equaled that mark. But of course, he already has the world under 18 record. Over the 110 hurdles, South Africa's Fenyo Miyen, he had already clocked 13.06 over the 91.4 centimeters barriers, which made him number 5 in the all-time list. And on 28 March, he clocked 13.16 in a slight headwind of minus 0.4. Venter van Zyl, no, sorry, Fenyo Miwen again, 13.19 in the heats on that same meet. So very good results for the South African hurdlers. And another good throws mark from a Chinese athlete in the hammer, Chen Jiawei, 82.19, moves to number 15 in the under 18 all-time lists. Among the women, 100 meters, Leah O'Brien, 11.14. She moves to number 9 on the under 18 all-time list, but it's also a historic mark because she breaks the record which had been set by Raylene Boyle when she competed at the Olympic Games in Tokyo. So that was special. Over the 400, we've been speaking a lot in indoor meets about Choma Nawachukwu. And in her first race outdoor, she clocked 51.44, which is equal number 14 on the under 18 all-time lists. And in the shot put, another athlete called Chen Yin Yao, 18 meters 47, moves to number 16 on the under 18 all-time list. So, well, some really good marks again. Anderson, do you have any athletes which impressed you in particular among the under 20s or under 18s so far this year?
Yeah, there was a few, definitely so many impressive performances. But yeah, earlier this year, we did see Bayanda Walaza from South Africa, who we'll mention a little bit later too. But he ran, sub 10 seconds. He ran 9.99 seconds down in South Africa, breaking that 10-second barrier for the first time. That was an amazing performance, especially considering last year he had won the 100 and 200 at the World U20 Championships in Lima. He also was part of the 4x1 team for South Africa that won an Olympic silver medal in Paris. So Walaza, as a U20 athlete, I think he's like very much going to be he's consistently on the rise right now. He's going to be someone to look forward to over the next coming years. And I'm excited to see, how he continues to progress. We're only at the top of the year so far. So he really impressed me. And then along with that, I was just down in Jamaica, not only for Grand Slam track, but also for their boys and girls high school champs. And we saw Sabrina Dockery. She actually ran 11.08 seconds in the 100-meter dash at the Jamaican high school champs. This was an amazing performance for someone, again, who's so young, still growing, still developing. And I think in the heats, she had also run 11.12 seconds. So it's like she's showing that consistency that, Jamaica continues to just develop these young stars year after year, and she is very much going to be a force, whether it's, later this year into the next 2 to 3 years, someone definitely to look out for.
Wow, it's so great that you also were at Champs, because that's absolutely fantastic. It's such a great experience.
Yeah.
Even though I must admit I liked it better before the age of vuvuzelas, because at the time you had each college had their band. And now instead it's all drowned out by the vuvuzelas, which you can actually hear like 2 kilometers away. It's obviously, the atmosphere is fantastic, but I preferred with bands rather than vuvuzelas.
Yeah, definitely. That makes sense. I wish I could have gone like some years ago to see. It definitely is very much a drowning out noise where that's all you hear. The vuvuzelas, the horns, like it's crazy.
Yeah, definitely. And in any case, that competition, I remember national newspapers. That was all they were talking about for 5 days before the competition. The athletes, they were all, top athletes like Shelly-Ann, they were all dressed up in the colors of their school. It's really is something special, Champs.
Yeah, it is. It's a once in a lifetime kind of experience, I think, overall, that can't be replicated. Yeah.
And of course, they definitely produce great races. And, as you mentioned, young sprinters around the world, they really are shining. Among the women, the second outdoor mark of the season also belongs to an under 20 athlete, and that's the USA's Dana Williams with 11:09. And among the men, we have, of course, Bayanda Walaza, also under 20 with 9.99. And of the top 5 marks so far, 3 of them belong to under 20 athlete, because Bayanda also has 11:04. And the USA's Gary Card, who is still only 18, ran in 20.06. Then add into that Australia's sprint prodigy, Gout, who ran a windy 19.98. And I think it's safe to say that the sprinting future looks bright.
Yes, definitely. Definitely a very, very bright future considering all the young talent right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd like now to highlight some cool athletics news and congratulate Botswana's Olympic champion and world athlete of the year, Letsile Tebogo, who has been named as ambassador for the governing body's kids athletics program. Tebogo said, "Athletics has given me so many opportunities, and I want to inspire young people to believe in themselves, dream big, and enjoy the sport." And added, "I'm honored to be part of this initiative to help develop future champions on and off the track." Now, Anderson, I believe Letsile is a great choice for this program. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Letsile is still extremely young. Just a few years ago, he was a U20 athlete himself, but now coming off his Olympic, gold medal in the 200 and silver in the 4x4, I think he's a great ambassador and a great choice for the program. We've seen him, rise to this level of stardom and this level of attention, but still remain extremely humble and still kind of have this demeanor of wanting to give back, wanting to help out others. And I think this is perfect. Someone, again, who's still young and will be able to continue to grow and develop in the sport and as a true leader and ambassador for a program like this.
Yeah. And as you mentioned, wanting to give back and to help. Just a few weeks ago, when there were these torrential rains back in Botswana, he was out in the streets helping, people who were stranded in their cars and everything. So, yeah, he definitely is a really, really great guy. So, yeah, happy to see him get also this kind of recognition, not just on the track, because he got so many awards at the end of last year. But this is special. So I think it's cool.
Absolutely.
So let's look now at upcoming events as we reach the end of our show. Talking about Letsile and Botswana. Tomorrow, the Botswana Golden Grand Prix takes place in Gaborone. And of course, Tebogo will be running there, as will Dalilah Muhammad, which I think is interesting. We also have World Race Walking Tour in Rio Maior, Portugal. On Saturday and Sunday, the European Road Running Championships in Brussels, Leuven. Sunday 13, the Rotterdam Marathon. 19 to 21, Carifta Games. So the greatest competition for underage athletes held this year in Port of Spain in Trinidad. 21st is also the Boston Marathon. 23 to 26, Drake Relays. 24 to 26, Penn Relays. 25 to 27, South American Championships in Mar del Plata, Argentina. And of course, the 26th of April is also the first meet of the Vanda Diamond League in Xiamen, China. 27 is the London Marathon. And 2 to 4 May, Grand Slam track meet in Miami. Will be cool to see how the second one goes. And the 3rd of May, slap in the middle of Grand Slam track, is also the second Diamond League meeting in China in Shanghai, Qiqiao. 4th of May, back to race walking, Korzeniowski Warsaw Race Walking Cup. Then we have a bit of a gap. On 16 May, the Doha Diamond League meet. 17-18 May, Pan American Race Walking Championships in San Borondon in Ecuador. 18 May, European Race Walking Championships in Podebrady, Czechia. And also the Golden Grand Prix back to track in Tokyo. And the Jilin City Marathon in China. 22 to 24, the Boris Hanzekovich Memorial in Zagreb moved from its traditional date in September. We'll see how that goes, having it in early May. 23 May is also the Janusz Kuzocinski Memorial in Chorzów. 24 May, the European 10,000 meter cup in Passy, France. 25 May, another Diamond League meet in Rabat. And also the Lanzhou Marathon in China, 27 to 31 May, Asian Athletics Championships in Gumi, Korea. 30 May, Irena Shevchinska Memorial in Bydgoszcz. Then the third Grand Slam track meet on 30 May to 1st June in Philadelphia. 30 May is also the Tsatoumas Street Long Jump in Kalamata in Greece. The day after, 31st May, Kipkeino Classic in Nairobi. And also the first day of the Hypo meeting combined events in Götzis. 31st May, Canaries Athletics Invitational in Santa Cruz de Tenerife. And I've put it on the list because it's my home meeting Nikaya, even though it's only a World Continental Tour bronze. But the Nikaya meeting was one of the very best, a few years ago. And this is the third year that they're reviving it. So I'm really happy that it's back. 1st of June, another World Race Walking Tour in Madrid. Also the Goldenes Oval track meet in Dresden, Germany. The High-Low Javelin meeting in Offenburg, also in Germany. Opolski Festival Sokov in Opole, World Continental Tour Silver. On the next day, 2nd of June, Palio Città della Quercia in Rovereto, track meet. 3rd of June, Trondmont Games in Bergen. And on the 6th of June, the Italian leg of the Diamond League meeting in Rome, the Golden Gala. So we're now at the end of our program, and it was great having Anderson with us on the show.
Yes, thank you so much. Always a pleasure to be able to, go over some amazing results, and also having been on the ground at Grandstand Track was great to be able to speak about the experience overall and everything we saw at the first one.
Yeah, no, that must have been really interesting. And as I say, I'm glad you enjoyed it. And overall, the format works. So let's hope that the long distance guys get their act together for Miami. So thank you, Anderson. Thank you all for watching, and see you in less than 2 weeks on Love Athletics, just before I head over to China for the 2 Diamond League meetings. And there we can look again together at the highlights, comments, and analysis of what's been happening in our sport over the past fortnight. Thank you so much. Ciao, ciao.